All right, guys. So this particular video is about Porsche 987.1. It's going to be Boxster S and Cayman S mainly. The road to 400 horsepower. All over the forums, all over the internet, everybody wants more power, more power, more power. So these cars start out with 295 horsepower. And granted, that is flywheel horsepower, not wheel horsepower from the factory. They come with very, very restrictive catalytic converters and mufflers and things to satisfy all the emission things, restrictive air box and filter and things. So they have to do that from the factory on pretty much everything just to get it into production and to make EPA happy, things like that. All right. So you have a Porsche 987.1 and you want to raise the horsepower. There's a few things you could do that's fairly inexpensive, and then you get into more money, depends on how far you want to push it. But there's a secret weapon in this whole recipe that pushes it over the top. We'll talk about it here towards the end. The very first thing you must do, probably you should do this no matter what, is the primary catalytic converters, which are built into the headers or the manifolds from the factory. They're very little. I've set them somewhere here. They're very small. I'll put a picture up, right? And these cars do burn a little bit of oil from the factory. That oil, you don't always see the smoke from it, but the catalytic converter is going to catch it. And if it gets far enough long, they'll actually start breaking apart and turning chunks sideways in the pipe and clogging up your exhaust, essentially. You're not going to be able to tell by driving it when that starts to happen, other than the smell. It'll emit quite the catalytic converter stench. And that is a huge restriction. That was a restriction from brand new, right? So you have different options on that. You could actually buy catless headers, which are probably the highest flow, to be honest with you. You could buy aftermarket catted headers that have converters in them. Some guys even put a converter further down line. These do have 4 converters in total. The 2 bigger ones are in the back, made onto the muffler. The 2 small ones are in the front on the manifold. And you could buy whole systems that replaces everything. That's $3,000 or something crazy, you know? But the ugliest truth about the exhaust in these cars, when you go to take the studs out, the nuts off the studs that bolt the manifolds or the headers to the heads, those studs are going to break off. That's just the way 987 is. That's the way a lot of Porsche stuff is. 986 did not have that problem. They had bigger studs. And pretty much what you're going to have to do, if you try to just take the nuts off the studs, a lot of them's going to break. And you're going to have to drill them out or whatever have you. So I think the best way to do it is get an induction heat gun made for taking off rusty bolts and nuts. It has a coil on it. You hold it against the metal till it glows red, and then you basically put your ratchet on it and back it out. It is very hard to use the crown, the wax trick on this situation, since you can't really get the wax to go into the threads. You know, the manifold's in the way. You're not going to be able to use a wax trick until after you break off the studs, which is not great. I think the induction heat gun is the way to go. That's some money. I'll put on everything in this video. I'll have a link in the description. The induction heat gun is close to $200 for a decent one. What I'll do, I'll pick through everything as I was buying it for my car and put the links up for that stuff in the description. That way, I kind of know how to get the best deal on stuff, where to get things at. If you're looking to do these mods, you don't have to go searching the internet to wit's end. So you'll see stuff from Amazon in the description. You'll see stuff from probably Rock Auto and all kinds of different websites. You can actually go seek that stuff out, right? And so once you got the headers off, you put your new headers on with or without cats. That's your choice. You could buy headers without cats. You could buy them off eBay. I had 2 sets of those in the past. They were like $250, $300 for the headers for catless. Once you start buying stuff with cats in it, it goes way through the roof, right? Anyhow, definitely if you get them all off without breaking anything, for sure, replace the studs. The factory studs are not that expensive. Actually found some at our local parts store that were a little better and the same thread and pitch as the factory ones. So let me see here. If you go catless with this, got me a list because I'm old and can't remember crap, right? If you go catless with this, you will have to put the oxygen sensor spacers on the secondary oxygen sensors, not the primaries on the manifolds, the secondaries. And if you do that, usually I'll drill them out a little bit. Depends on what you get. There's a whole variation of stuff you get. I'll find some that are wide open for you guys. And these will have to be L-shaped spacer. It'll hit the car. That will fool the system thinking everything's fine, right? And everything's good to go. Now, my personal opinion about the mufflers and the secondary cats in this car, you could actually run with no secondary cats in this car, and the computer is not going to know the difference. It doesn't understand anything about the secondary cats. That's only basically to catch what the primary cats did not catch. Every set I've taken off of those were fairly stopped up, right? These cars run pretty rich from the factory, if you haven't noticed. And if you go out and put your car in neutral, let it run for a minute, rev it, have somebody look behind you, it'll puff a little puff of black smoke. They're pretty safe rich, right? And a good catless catback is what you will need for this. Like I said, you could buy a whole system that has one set of aftermarket cats in the middle of the system and none of the manifold. There's all kinds of different things you could buy for it. We've always ran those Borla real, I forgot what they, XL or something like that, extreme performance mufflers. You can just look right through them. These cars are not going to sound good straight piped. We tried that a couple times. It just sounds like a 1993 Chevy Lumina with the exhaust falling off. It sounds ugly. You have to have some kind of muffler or some arrangement in line on the system to make it sound good. Also, while I'm adding to the exhaust system in this car, I am so done with running X-pipes in these cars. The X-pipe fantasy that Porsche have from the factory, the X-pipe fantasy a lot of aftermarket guys have, that's garbage. Every car I try to run any kind of X-pipe on, when you let off the gas, you can hear it like sucking back on itself. It sounds like crap. Once you separate the pipes completely, you get slightly deeper tone to it, but it's a lot crisper note, which is what you want. And a wide open throttle, it's very crisp, very pronounced. Obviously, running catless, it's going to be more crackly, more poppy, and things like that. You could even run a cheaper catback if you wanted to on it. Although we tried that on the blue car, it came with some kind of stainless catback. I don't remember the name of it now, but it was kind of junk. You know, it looked nice, but it didn't flow well. It kind of had some weird noise to it. Come to find out, one of the mufflers is actually welded on wrong from the factory, from the kit. And so we booted that, cannibalized that system, and used the Borla mufflers or any kind of straight through style muffler. Doesn't have restrictions. And so anyhow, enough with the exhaust. That's pretty much a rundown of the exhaust. The air filter. The air filter in these cars is interesting. There's a few things you need to know. If you're in a paper filter, you will need to replace that filter often. The way the airbox is set up, they will get dirty fast. B&C air filter is what I've been running all these cars. I've read a lot on the Cayman for this particular model, and Cayman is not preferred. That is the filter is very hard to get in the airbox, and the Cayman is not made just right, and usually end up crinkling the filter getting it in. The B&C is just a slight bit smaller, and in my thoughts, a lot higher quality. Now, that's putting a cleanable, washable air filter in the factory air box. Now, you're saying, oh, the factory air box is so restrictive. It is, but there's a trick for that. On these cars, it has like a snorkel in it, and if you take that snorkel out, the block-off plate, you can actually suck air in from outside. Now, my last car, I took the snorkel part out too. It is very restrictive. So the airbox has an open area to the vent on the side of the car. It can suck air directly in. That is the best way. However, that will make your air filter dirtier even quicker. So you for sure need a cleanable air filter like a BNC if you're going to do that. You could drive it. I drive mine 400 or 500 miles, and the air filter where it's exposed to the outside definitely is black and nasty. Can rain get in there? No, it cannot. It's not that kind of setup. Can you get leaves in there? Not really. It does still have that little factory grill on it. I have a video up somewhere not too long ago on how to prep the air box. It's about a 5-minute deal to take the snorkel and the block off plate off. It's done from the outside. You basically just pop the grill off the outside on the fender and on the driver's side and open that air route up to the box. Is opening the air route up to the box going to give you more horsepower? I don't know. Probably not, but that's going to allow you to breathe better once you get all this other stuff done. So our secret weapon, or one of our secret weapons to this, is E85. E85 is a fuel which is basically 110 octane made from corn and as a small percentage of gasoline and corn. E85 has been controversial forever. These cars really like E85. Certain cars will not run E85. These cars will run E85. However, let me be very cautious too. Not all E85 is made equal, especially when you get it out of a pump. From gas station to gas station, depends on how long it's been sitting in there, it will attract water. It is not good to put in a car that you never drive, that sits forever. Will it eat your fuel lines? No, it will not. Will it eat your fuel pump up? No, it will not. Man, I've ran so many cars with that and we never had a problem with it. The 987.1 is factory rich enough to be totally fine with E85. No problem. If you try to start it when it's really cold outside, E85 is a little bit harder to start. It may trip a code on cold start, but that's not that big of a deal. E85 will leverage some serious horsepower to what you're doing. You know, these cars have to have premium octane. So the current mathematical price of things right now is, in Missouri, at this minute, regular 87 octane gasoline is $2.49 a gallon. Super is what, $3.50, $3.75 a gallon? It's a lot higher. And E85 is right about $2 a gallon. It's like $2.05 a gallon right now. So you can run this car off of fuel that's $2.05 a gallon. However, E85 does burn at a different rate. It is going to use a little more fuel. You're not going to get your 29 miles a gallon or you've been getting in this car. You get just a little bit less. Not a lot, but you're also paying a lot less for it too, right? If you get E85 in your car, you can start off mixing it half and half. And I'll tell you why that is. In case you get some E85 that's garbage, which is possible, I would almost recommend never filling it all the way up, just in case you get a bad batch. You can mix gasoline back with it and it'll be okay. But a lot of people and there's a lot of tuners that are like, you can't run that. You can, you absolutely can. We've never had a problem with that. Toyota, Porsche, non-turbo stuff like E85, just the way it is, right? A lot of people say Ford likes E85 too. I'm talking about non-flex fuel factory vehicles, right? You can get a flex fuel sensor and add to the system. You have to dig around to find that. I've never done that. I never just had the need to do that. But you can do that if you want to run that fuel and you're scared about it, but no reason to be scared about it, right? E85 really step up the numbers a lot. So your headers, the whole premise of this is, without a tune, with this stuff so far, you're looking for about 360 wheel with all this. You're taking out a series of converters, replacing them with a high flow or not replacing them at all. You're taking out airbox restrictions, and the E85 is the big step in this. Without E85, with 93 octane, if you can find 93, here's all 91, you're going to be considerably less horsepower with the 91 or 93, the 85. Like I said, it's give or take 360. The next on the list is the Softronic tune. I've heard of people using Softronic before. There's a bunch of tunes out there. But Softronic actually gives you the little programmer with it, so you revert the tune to factory if you want. That's pretty expensive. That's $895-ish. You can probably look around and find it a little cheaper. I'll put a link in the description. Like I said, on that one, you guys use your own judgment. That's going to change the throttle response. It's going to change a lot of things on the car. And it will give it some more horsepower. Probably 30 more horsepower. You know, all the numbers they say on the tuner or on this or on that is all subject to change. That's debatable, right? Was going to give you 30 horsepower or 10 horsepower or 31 horsepower? You don't know, right? A lot of those depends on the mods in your car already. Other than tune, the IPD plenum, there's major controversy on that too, the plenum and throttle body. A lot of people love it. A lot of people hate it. It just depends on what you want. That could give you, 25 more horsepower? Maybe. That's about $1,000 though. The other thing we make sure and do on these cars, as soon as I buy these cars, I pull them in the shop, pull the spark plugs out. For one, you could then bore scope it. Two, you can look at the plug, see if it's been burning oil. And three, it's probably not going to have the spark plugs you want in it, right? In my opinion, on these particular cars, the best ones to run are NGK Iridium IXs. We run those in all these cars, never had a problem with them. We pulled some Bosch ones out of before, the Bosch 4-prong that had schmutz in it, like stuck in between it. I don't particularly care for the 4-prong Bosch stuff, or really too much Bosch stuff at all. I usually don't buy those. Yes, anybody at all, NGK is about as good as it gets. If they tell you that's not the case, they probably don't know a lot about stuff. I don't know. That's always been the way on all the cars all through the years, right? Always get NGK. The best place to get those is any spark plug. The best place is Rock Auto. They're like a quarter of the price anywhere else. If you go to AutoZone or Rallies and try to buy that crap, what are they, 15 bucks a plug? They're about five and a half on Rock Auto, right? You got to pay a little bit of shipping. It's still far above and beyond cheaper. And Rock Auto, we don't see any of the clone stuff, the Chinese crap coming in. We see almost all good quality spark plugs on there. I've never had a problem on there at all. So will this get you to 400 horsepower? We do know for a fact, it's well known on the internet, without a tune, with all these mods minus the plenum, you're about 360, right? With a tune, a lot of guys claim big numbers on these tunes. I would say you get to 380 or so with the tune. You're about 20 horsepower. To think you're going to get over that, that's debatable. It's all debatable, right? If you put the plenum on it, which is $1,000, will that put you at 400? By all numbers on paper, it will, or right close to it. But I've not played with that too much. A lot of you guys have. I'll talk to you and stuff like that. Like I said, that's $1,000 for 20 horsepower. That's a lot. That's a lot of money for 20 horsepower. A debatable 20 horsepower too. So there's your road to 400. Like I said, the link's in the description for all this stuff. If you guys want to pick and choose what you want to try, obviously 85 is free to try. Go put it in there and that's it. If you put 85 in your car and it's sputtering around and cutting out, it's not that it messed up your car. It's the 85 you got is garbage. You never know when or where you're going to get bad 85 at. We had a gas station close to us a while back. I was getting it there, and I just could never get a good quality 85 there. I don't know if they were getting water in the tank or what. I always leave a little room at the top of the tank, you know, that if you got a bad batch, you could put some regular super unleaded in it and mix it, and it'll be okay. You'll be able to drive it, no problem at all. Any flash and check engine lights after E85 is definitely the quality of the fuel. You could buy E85 in containers. It's very expensive. It is better quality, but it sure as hell is not $2 a gallon, right? Probably looking more like $10 a gallon or more. But that's the list, guys. You know, if you do not own a 997.1, this is probably a very boring video. We've not seen like 996 stuff. We have not seen such a large gain out of the headers, and decatting those. There's, from the factory, are a lot bigger converters. And on the 987, they put some very small primaries in it. You know, just the way it is. Can't help it. I'm not Porsche. Complain to them if you don't like that. But that's just the way it is. That's going to be it for today's video, guys. Thank you all for watching. Hope this helps. Hope this brings some good, clean power to you guys. And raises those numbers just a little bit. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later.